Okay, good morning. 24 of Adar. 24 is Kuf Daled. Kuf Daled spells the word Kad, which Kad means a vessel, something that contains something. So today's Tanya is going to teach us a bit about how to become a vessel for holiness. But before we get to that, who needs a refuah?
Shalom Dovber ben Rachel Bela.
And Tuvia ben Avram. And Toba Miriam Baschan Rachel. And Yair ben Adela, and Mordechai Yehuda ben Chana, and Yisrael ben Yomin ben Leah Gittel, and Devorah Leah bas Ahuva Liba, and Rivka Mina bas Chaya Esther. All of them should have a refuah. Shlema Bekoref.
And Yehuda's Golda bas Elisa Chana, and Naphtali ben Menucha Bela.
Refuah Shlema Bekoref. Okay. Today's Hayom Yom 24 of Adar. To Rav Hillel Parich's question whether to review Hasidus even in towns where the people have no conception of Hasidus, so the Middle Rebbe responded as follows. Words of Hasidus are heard by the soul. Doesn't matter if you understand. Heard by the soul. It is written, flowing from Lebanon, right? The rivers flowing from Lebanon. Lebanon is spelled in Hebrew, Lamed Beis Nun, Lebanon, Lamed Beis Nun, thus represents Chochmah and Bina. Lev is the heart, and there are Nun Share Bina, 50 gates of understanding. So Lebanon is heart and mind, heart and Bina. So Lebanon, it's interesting, huh? Think about Lebanon today, but this is the root of it. Lebanon represents Chochmah and Bina of the soul. When the soul hears, not the ears, when the soul hears, from there issues a flow, a river, or the rivers of Lebanon. There issues a flow, a stream of droplets into that radiance of the ha'ora of the soul which vitalizes the body. This is very interesting, though. Just listening to Hasidus. I can't tell you how many, accumulated into years, I spent sitting at the Farbrengens of the Rebbe with a very weak understanding of Yiddish. Nevertheless, there were words of Hasidus. Baruch Hashem, some of them I did understand, but he's telling us here even those which you don't understand, which are just words coming from the fountain of Hasidus. They come from such a high, deep place that they flow into the soul itself. These become a stream of droplets into the radiance of the ha'ora of the soul, which vitalizes the body. That's the ray of energy which enlivens the body. And this results in a strengthening of doing good. Remember, this is all on the topic of speaking Hasidus to people who have no knowledge of Hasidus. It pours a life force into them, expressed in the 248 positive mitzvahs, and it gives a power to turn from evil, as expressed in the 365 prohibitions. Well, right on target. Hopefully we will understand, however, today, but on the same topic, Lessons in Tanya. Lessons in Tanya, page 490 in this little book. And in this Lakuti Amurim, Tanya, the bottom of page Mem Zayin, big letters. Big letters. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe had told us yesterday in general that when one refrains from doing a negative commandment, what are you doing? You're restraining the Nefesh HaBahamis, and nefesh achiyunis, it's also called the enlivening soul, because as I've said many times, animal is associated with the word animus. The animus that gives us life is the animal soul. And when one restrains it from doing things which are against the Torah, so that creates like a muscle, a strength in the animal soul. And that muscle then can be utilized to do, and is what's utilized to do, the 248 positive mitzvahs. Anytime you engage with the physical, the example he gave yesterday was eating a piece of bread. So that engagement with the physical in a manner which is prescribed by Torah, by saying a brocha, and utilizing the power of the animal, it's actually the power of the animal which enables you to do what Hashem wants you to do. So what the analogy here is, or the structure better here, is that the lowest, which is the animal, is the instrument for fulfilling the highest, which is God's will. Again, one of the examples we have over and over again of the principle from Sefer Yetzirah, that the beginning is wedged in the end. God's will, where is it engaged? In the physical, in the body. That's what he told us yesterday, and that's a general statement. And he begins today, and let me tell you something else. That's colloquial. This an additional thing. The power of the enlivening soul, when the power of the animal, as I'm doing now, the power of my animal soul is invested in my lips, my mouth, in my voice, and that's speaking words of Torah, or tefillah, or your animal soul is enlivening your mouth to say words of prayer, in similar circumstances, or or you're using your animus, your animal soul, your animation to do a physical mitzvah. So when you do that, so all the growth and all the life force which is being carried in the blood, which the blood is from klippus noiga, it's from a klippa, meaning it's a shell, right? It's something that's materialized, and materialization is a function of tzimtzumim, of God contracting, lessening the exposure of the infinite to create finite particles, even subatomic particles. That's all from klippus noiga, meaning those particles in that flesh and blood, in that body, in that tongue, in that voice can go either way. Shehen kol oichlin umashkin, and all the foods or drinks that you're having are all extant, they all exist from the power of godliness which is invested in the klippa noga, the shell, the materialization, which can go either way. So all the food and drink that you ate or eat. Minasadam. And what happens when you drink and eat? So the food you eat, becomes digested, and the nutrients become absorbed and are carried by the blood. And that's why it says, Hadam hu hanefesh. The blood is the soul, meaning the animal soul. It's the carrier. It's the physical carrier of godliness invested in physical animation. Shehu tachas msholas, which is under the domain, before you do anything with that, you're just alive, it's under the domain of the klippus noiga. And it's taking its life force from the klippus noiga. In other words, God's investment in the shell of which is the materialization of everything. Now, when you do something with that, and you utilize that koyach, that animus, that animation that's empowered by the nutrients in the blood to all the parts of your body, and you mehapeches, and you bring them back, you turn them around, merala toiv, so they don't get attached to the lusts of the body, the affairs of the body. It doesn't have to be lust. It could be a way of thinking, which is against Hashem's will, anything. And you turn that around from bad to good, and you include it in Kedusha. How do you do that? You do that by using that power, use the power of the enlivening soul, which is being grown from and empowered by the blood. And you enclose that power in these words, right? These words we spoke earlier about, the words of Torah, or the words of the tefillah, or doing the mitzvah, which these words of Torah, words of tefillah, and actions of mitzvahs are expressions of the innermost will of Hashem, without any concealment. This is where God has invested his will. What does he want? He wants us to do mitzvahs. Mitzvah, again, miloshin chibur, of joining. The mitzvah is mitzvah, it's commanded, and the word is also a word that can be connoted as to bring two things together, to bring the physical and the cerebral and the verbal to Kedusha. And then when you do that, so when you do that, when you grab the thing of the mitzvah or say the words of Torah or tefillah, so the life force which is in the blood, which is klippus noga, has now been turned to the side of light, illumination, and is included in the light of the infinite one, blessed be he. And that light is what God is, the expression of God's will. And in doing so, that the chayuson, the life force of the limbs and organs and the mind and the thought, etc., is niklal. It's included v'ola gamkein, and rises up also. You're bringing with it the koyach hanefesh hachayunis, the whole power of the enlivening animal soul. And through doing this, the ala gamkein klalis klippus noiger. As each and every one of us do this, we're elevating the entire general force of the life force, which is embedded in klippus noiger, which is the general life of this entire world, of this world particularly, hagashmi v'humri, this physical world, this coarse world. So each and every one of us, in doing this that we're speaking about here, taking the power invested in klippus noiga and bringing it to the side of Kedusha, each one of us is part of creating each prat. Very interesting, of course, this is in Parshas Pekudei, which is talking about each prat, each detail of the Mishkan. But when you take, for instance, there's one thing that's in today's Hitas, that Bezalel took a plate of gold and he cut out of it many threads, which were the woven threads of certain things that were made in the Mishkan. From the kalal comes the prat, from the general comes the prat, the detail, and pekude is just the other way around it. From the pekude, from each one of us, each one of our details, each one of us doing what we're speaking about here, that creates ultimately an elevation and a transformation of the klippus noiga into kedusha, which is, in other words, what we call geula, redemption. So ka'ashe kol haneshama b'nefesh elokisha b'kol Yisrael, when all the soul, the entire, now it's singular, when the entire soul, this is all the pieces of threads that are woven together to make a particular singular thing, like the breastplate or some other part of the clothing of the Kohanim. But now it's a garment, right? You have many threads, but when they're woven together, you don't call them many threads, you call it a garment. So that's now an entirety of soulfulness, so to speak. And nefesh elokis, this, when the entire soul and the entire nefesh elokis b'chol Yisrael, which is in each and every Jew, mischalekes bepratis, which each and every Jew has a piece of this, and to the extent that there are generally shishim riboy, 600,000 souls. When all of them do this, what we're speaking about, take the nefesh, the chayas of the body, and engage it in in the mitzvah, and of course, particularly in the Simcha Shel mitzvah. To Kayim Kol Nefesh Pratim Kol Tariag mitzvahs, when all these 613, when all the souls do the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah, and the Sheshah Loisa say, and the 365 negatives, the Hiporad Shesagidim Shel Dam Nefesh Achayunis Shebaguf, in order lahafrid, to separate and make and take them from the side of Klippas Noiga to the side of Kedusha. What's the object of the sentence here? All the limbs and organs and ligaments that are invested in the power of animation through the blood flowing through them, shebeguf, in the body, that they no longer take that chayas and utilize it for doing something which is prohibited, avera zu, me'achas misholish klippers of tameas, from any of the three unclean klippers, lagamri, the complete unclean klippers. When a person does this, as is engaged in this, as long as they're there, of course, they're trapped in what we call gullus. That's the gullus state. And from that negativity is expressed the godly negativity of do not do that. These are the 365 things that you should not do. The 365 loisa say of the Torah, the Anfein, and all of their branches which branch out in halacha from divrei seifrim and divrei rabbanim, shehem the rabbanim, as he says. V'shuv le'tochel nefesh hachayunis la'ales el Hashem, and when the person remains captive, let's say, or contributes to the captivity of these godly sparks, and is not able, of the animal soul is not able, la'ales el Hashem, to rise up to Hashem, when that's the case, if the animal soul is engaged in these negative activities, it's not able to rise up from the 300 of the tumah, the impurity of the sholish klippos atameus, of the three unclean klippos, which is, as long as the person is, God forbid, loy oleinu, engaged in not engaging the power of the animal soul and the body to engage in kedusha, so they're tied there, la'olam, forever, chas v'sholom. They have to be nullified. That attachment has to be nullified and transformed, at least subjugated and transformed. It has to be pass away completely. As is written about the future, the spirit of impurity will pass away from the earth. So, it's a nice slogan, but it's an instruction, and it's an operating instruction that you have the power within you. Each have the power within you to take this klippa and attach it this way or that way. And if we're really serious about redemption, we'll utilize that power so that no longer in each and every one of us, at least if no longer entirely, will be the ultimate state, we don't utilize, we take control of it, because we have control of it, because of the nefesh elokis is designed to influence the nefesh abahamis, and enlist the nefesh abahamis and engage the nefesh abahamis in bringing the geula. So when that happens, when each of us and all of us individually become a total community engaged in that activity, then, again, the prat becomes part of the klal, that each one of us become part of the holy garment, so to speak. I'm just alluding to Parshas Pekudim. So then, then the spirit of uncleanliness will pass away from the earth. V'ramach mitzvahs aseh, that's the negative. And similarly with the positive mitzvahs aseh, one is to take the power away and therefore sort of starve out the negative. And the other, the positive, is to draw down the light, the positive. Starve out the negative and draw down the positive. Excuse me. And that's drawing down the mitzvah, to draw down the infinite light down below, to create an elevation in all of the creation, and an elevation in God Himself in that the realization of what he's wanted in the first place, which is a diraleis b'tachtonim, is realized. And everything is now united, connected with, and united with him. And here him is not the object here. Everything that's united is tied and united. The whole generality of the soul, the whole klalus and nefesh hachayunis, the entirety of the enlivening soul is all now in the service of Hashem through the 365 negative, where we don't give any power to it, we strip it of its power, and the 248 positive, where all now the soul, the animal soul, becomes an animal to draw and lift up the chariot of Hashem, as we enlist and tap its power to strengthen our godly energy, to strengthen our body to serve Hashem by strengthening the Evrei Aguf, the limbs of the body, with kedusha, b'yichud gomer, with a complete unity, liyes lachodim mamish, to be absolutely one, together, operating together in service of Him, the way it has risen up in God's will in the first place, that He wants a dwelling place down here in the lower world. And all now, when a person does this, all the 248 limbs of the body have become enlisted in and become a chariot to God Himself, the way we speak of the Avos. They were chariots to Hashem. Every limb and organ in their body was engaged in the service of bringing the dwelling place, the realization of the dwelling place of Hashem down here below. It's today's Tanya. Yeah? Any comments, questions?
I was just thinking about the word Elokeinu. That Elokeinu, Elokim is Gematria Hateva, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we say Elokeinu, maybe we mean our nature, like
yes,
Sai our human nature, and Sai the nature that we live in this world, the nature. And
sure.
So, like what we just said about the Avos being the Merkava is Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. It was their complete nature to be in tune and one with Hashem.
Absolutely. Beautiful. That's right. And nature itself gets utilized to serve Hashem. You know, all the, we're holding, where we're holding. We all know where we're holding. This any second now. We're holding on the threshold, if not farther. And we're seeing discoveries all through nature. I mean, this is the positive of what's going on. Some of the positive of what's going on today. The secrets of the natural world are being revealed to empower communication, to empower healing, to empower deep psychological healing as well. And we're seeing it.
And we say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu, like, or Shema Hashem Elokeinu. That Elokeinu is also part of our nature. That's part of our MS. It's just a matter of peeling away all the klippos that came to cover it up.
That's it. That's it. And He's giving us, hopefully, some chizuk in this. I mean, the point of this is to know that you're able to. You know, if you talk about it and say, okay, that's wonderful, but He's erasing the but. He's telling you, no, this is the way you're built. This is your, quote, natural state to be godly. So, halavai, we should take this to heart and walk away today and utilize it. And we'll see you tomorrow. It's Hashem.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.